Heyo, so since this is the second video, I'm gonna go ahead and promote my stuff at the beginning this time instead of the end. If you don't want to see more of my content for some reason, you can go ahead and skip to the timestamp right here. I'll give you a few seconds to skip ahead to when I actually start talking about FNAF and redesigning the characters. Alrighty, for those of you that stuck around, first of all, thank you, I greatly appreciate it. Second, some of you may have noticed that this channel temporarily changed its name to Grit Art. This is because I decided to try moving over to my gaming channel, now known as Grit Gaming, to produce a more continuous flow of content for people to see. While I did enjoy getting back into the Let's Play grind, I felt myself unsatisfied with my creative output, so I decided to put that on hold for some time to come back here and make this video. I plan to go back to that gaming channel eventually, but I intend to do more than just Let's Plays with it. Think more like gaming improv with my group of friends, a little comedic spin on Let's Plays. But yeah, if you want to go ahead and check that out, the link to my gaming channel will be in the description below. You can also find my Twitch channel down there, where I try to stream every night save Mondays and Fridays, and do various things like gaming, music, and art streams. I would greatly appreciate you stopping by and saying hello. Anyways, thank you for listening to me shameless plug my stuff. Let's get on to the video. This took so long to make. Okay, so before we get into anything, I just want to take a minute to ramble about the struggle it was to get this video out. If you listen to the beginning, you know that I have a gaming channel that I wanted to do daily videos on, and while I enjoyed doing it, I didn't really have the time to pursue other projects such as this video. So I decided to take a little hiatus from that and finally crack down on this video. That was over 2 months ago. See, I started to sketch all of the animatronics one by one when suddenly my tablet broke. Like, the charging port in the pen got jammed or some kind of messed up, and I couldn't use it anymore. So, we tried to look for a replacement pen, find out that the one we got wasn't compatible, and that we simply had to get an entirely new tablet. Okay, so, not a good start, but I needed a new tablet by this point anyways, so we go ahead and order a new one, and it'll come in like a week. And I wait till then. While we were waiting, my computer then somehow caught a I don't know exactly when or how it happened, probably because I was on the internet being shady, but the fact of the matter is my computer is now infected. You know what? Not ideal, but I've dealt with computer problems before. I grew up with computers. So I go ahead, run a few scans on multiple programs, and clear out my system as best as I can. At this point, I think I've taken care of most of the damage, but I still have some small issues here and there. I'd also like to point out that at this time I'm also trying to hold down a job while making videos and streaming 5 days a week, so I guess you could say I'm a little stressed. But you know what? The weekend rolls around. We're supposed to get our tablet after a week of waiting. We're excited. We decide to try and make ourselves a new stream overlay to celebrate the occasion. Then I come to find my editing software stops working. I try opening it up, it won't even let me, so now I have no software to edit videos with. I went almost a month without being able to edit, and the tablet didn't even show up till the day after. One thing after the other, on top of life constantly throwing new hurdles, I'm happy to get this video out when I can. But anyways, now that you've listened to me vent and rant, assuming that I didn't put a timestamp for you to skip to, allow me to actually go ahead and start this video with, I absolutely adore FNAF 2. Taking myself back into the mindset of 2014 Grit, I can remember the sheer excitement I felt when Scott Cawthon began releasing teaser images for a sequel to Five Nights at Freddy's. Like, this game literally kept me from sleeping at night, and now it's basically been confirmed to expand into an entire franchise rather than just a one-off title. This absolutely blew me away when it first happened. I didn't think that anything more would come out of this series than just a bunch of YouTubers reacting to it and moving on. But if there's one thing that Scott knows, it's how to keep his audience on his toes. With over double the animatronics to redesign here, it was honestly kind of daunting to take this on at first. There's literally so many animatronics in FNAF 2, and if you take into account the Easter egg animatronics, you have a whopping total of 14 characters in one game. I'm not that crazy, so we're gonna go ahead and take out 3 of them. JJ, Shadow Bonnie, and that weird endoskeleton that shows up from time to time. Okay, so for this video, we're going to be drawing all of the toy animatronics, Balloon Boy, and the marionette. And we're also going to be drawing all of the withered animatronics. Yes, including you, Golden Freddy. I'm not leaving you out this time. Alrighty, I think we've waited long enough, don't you? Let's just go ahead and get right into it, starting with Toy Freddy. Okay, so right off the bat, you may notice a couple things. First off, the sketches are already done. Given that I am working with 11 whole paintings in one video, I decided to save myself a little time while also not worrying too much about the designs while recording, as they'd mostly be done already. Second, while a lot of the animatronics have major changes to their designs, some of them, such as Toy Freddy, could essentially be chalked up as a change in style, giving him a narrower muzzle to look more like a bear and, of course, shrinking the eyes a little. I also wanted to make a point that, yes, I indeed read all of your comments in the last video. I genuinely appreciate everyone that went ahead and explained what they would have done differently in their redesigns. And a lot of the comments that really stuck with me are the ones that mentioned that they would make the animatronics seem more appealing to the children themselves. So, I kept that in mind. Designing the toy animatronics, I wanted the designs themselves to look generally harmless, but when you put them under the right lighting, it makes them all the more chilling. There really isn't too much else to say about Toy Freddy's redesign here, so I think it's time we go ahead and move on to the next one, Toy Bonnie. So the first thing I want to point out with the Toy Bonnie redesign is that I started out by giving him a different shade of blue. I wanted him to have a more gentle, almost sky blue shade, rather than the near neon cyan that we get in the original game. I'm not particularly put off by the color choice Scott chose for Toy Bonnie, but ever since his debut, I always did feel that he was a little bright for the eyes. Also, we're going with a different style shirt for Bonnie. You remember last episode where I decided to give Bonnie a plaid shirt and spent over 2 hours on that alone? Yeah, no, we're not doing that. Stripes it is. Honestly, I think the striped polo along with the undershirt is a really nice fit for Toy Bonnie. Almost gives him that humble guitar player vibe. Another thing that I've forgotten to mention is that I've designed the toy animatronics to look as if they aren't exactly functioning like they should. Not exactly malicious or even anything worth looking over. Just subtle hints here and there that let you know that these new and improved animatronics are not what they're claimed to be. Not too much to say about the Toy Bonnie redesign, honestly, so let's move on to our next animatronic, Toy Chica. Okay, before we get into this one, I gotta be real honest with you guys. I don't like Toy Chica's design. I know this is kind of a pot calling the kettle black situation because, I mean, look at me. But I feel like Toy Chica's design is a little too mature for this game. I mean, seriously, why is she so voluptuous? Why is she so scantily clothed? Why is her beak removable? I understand that the target demographic for these games at the time was directed towards a more mature audience, but you have to remember that these are, in canon, child entertainers meant to sing and perform for literal children. So, complete overhaul on the design. I decided to go ahead and make Toy Chica's design more aligned with her original one, having a wider body and rounder cheeks, while still keeping all of the toy features that make her distinct and unique compared to her original counterpart, such as the rosy cheeks. Other than that, it's pretty much similar to Toy Freddy with subtly changing proportions to make her a little more like a chicken, and not much else. I guess you can mention the fact that, similar to the last video, I had removed the eyebrows from the animatronics, as I feel that having that vagueness and expression only adds into the creep factor. Oh yeah, since you probably noticed this with the cupcake, I'll just go ahead and point out that when I'm coloring these animatronics, I tend to use the same colors throughout the entire design. I mean, that tends to be something you just kind of do when you're working on a painting. It simply makes sense to use the same colors as you already have them. But I wanted to do that as more of a deliberate choice, as I feel that that would bring the designs as a whole more together and streamlined. You'll notice when looking back at the original designs that, while they are all colored very well and have palettes that work amazing for their setting, some of the characters tend to have an unnecessary amount of color that makes their designs feel a little clustered in my opinion. I guess I don't really have anything else to say about Toy Chica, so let's go ahead and move on to our next animatronic, the Mangle. Mangle was by far the longest and most arduous redesign I've had to do for this video, spending over 4 hours on the painting alone, over multiple sittings. Honestly, the hardest part for me was the concept phase, deciding just how mangled the Mangle should be along with how the body parts should be distributed. I decided to go for a design that would imply that movement would be impossible, having to rely on slithering through the pizzeria like a snake or hanging from the ceiling to get around. The second hardest part was designing the endoskeleton itself, as I am a stickler for anatomy when it comes down to it. I did enjoy giving it a more human skeleton-like look to it, especially with the second head attached. Another more subtle design choice I made with Mangle is that I decided to lean in more on the clown aesthetic they've got going on. I always thought that Mangle kinda looked like a clown due to the color palette Scott chose for them. But you know what? I like clowns, so we're just gonna go all in on it, marking around the eyes with little lines and actually giving them eyebrows. Other than that, there really isn't much else to say about this redesign. Just that it took an absurdly long time to finish compared to the others. So with that, let's move on to our next animatronic, Balloon Boy. Okay, so Balloon Boy was comparatively much easier for me to redesign than the other animatronics. As much as I love drawing animal characters, I've been drawing humans basically ever since I could pick up a pencil before I was even 2. So giving Balloon Boy a much more human look to him while still maintaining that toy animatronic aesthetic was honestly kind of a walk in the park for me. I decided to go ahead and give him more features such as his ears and actual hands to hold the sign and balloons. The only real hurdle I'd say I came across with this one was deciding exactly how many stripes I wanted in his clothes. In his original design, his stripes are actually very intricate and detailed, and I considered bringing that over to my redesign. However, going back to my point I made with Toy Chica, I feel like that might have actually made his design a little too complicated and cluttered, especially compared to the more simplistic designs of the other animatronics. So I simply elected to go for plain colored stripes. Honestly, there really isn't too much else to say about Balloon Boy, a pretty minor character that I still enjoyed redesigning. So with that, let's go ahead and move on to our final toy animatronic, the Marionette. Okay, so where Balloon Boy was really easy for me to redesign into something more unique and uncanny, the Marionette in contrast was actually really hard to change up. The design is already so simplistic in nature that there wasn't too much to do with it on a base level, so I simply went ahead and just did small design changes that would add up over time. To start off, I decided to make their mask look more akin to a comedy drama mask to give it that more human look to it. On top of the mask looking just a little more human, I designed the marionette to have more human-like proportions, going so far as to shade them to look like they even had visible ribs and an emaciated figure to boot. I surprisingly had more fun than I thought I would redesigning the marionette. Given the constrictive simplicity of the design, it forced me to get more creative in my design choices, something I can always appreciate. I think that's all I have to say about the toy animatronics. So let's just get right into the withered animatronics, starting with everyone's favorite, Withered Freddy. But first, a little ad break. I put ad break in quotes because this video isn't sponsored by anybody, but do you want to know something? This video is brought to you by me. As in, I'm the only one doing everything over here to get this video out to you. A lot of your favorite YouTubers that you watch nowadays, especially ones that produce a constant stream of content, are basically entire companies in their own right at this point. Let's take Markiplier for example, literally one of the chillest, humblest, most down-to-earth creators you will find on the internet, let alone this platform. A man who literally plays video games for a living. He has to have an entire team of people backing him up just so he can keep up with the demands of his job. He has multiple editors, a marketing director, and even a YouTube representative, all for the sole purpose of helping him keep up with his work. Me? I'm the only one here. I do everything by myself. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do a little shameless plug here in the middle, where you're basically too deep into the video to back out now, and reiterate my Twitch channel. I like making things. I live to create. That is what I do. But I also like to reach out to others and socialize, especially when they need someone that they can talk to. This is what I aim for in my Twitch channel. I stream every night around 9 PM Central at the earliest, save for Mondays and Fridays, and I pretty much do whatever I'm feeling that night, be it art or music or gaming. I also like to share it as a mental health safe space for people to just come in and interact with others without fear of judgment. I do have to point out though, given Twitch's guidelines, my streams are meant for mature audiences only. I knew it. Speaking of, I do have to point out though, given Twitch's guidelines, my streams are meant for mature audiences only, so it'd be advised that if you are underage, to not come into my streams until you are of legal age. That being said, I would love to have you stop by and chat. It would mean the world to me. You don't have to stay, you don't even have to follow. Just a simple hello would make my day. You can find me at twitch.tv/grittastic. That's twitch.tv/grittastic. Link will be in the description below. Anyways, thanks for indulging me. Let's get back into the redesigns, starting with Withered Freddy. So, right off the bat, you can see the withered animatronics are going to be way more damaged than they appear in the game. In stark contrast to the toy animatronics looking more kid-friendly and approachable, I've decided to go ahead and make the withereds full-on nightmare fuel, designing them to be more akin to rotting carcasses than decommissioned robots. I didn't want them to just be withered, I wanted them to be falling apart. A design choice that I was kinda iffy on starting out was deciding whether or not to add blood to these animatronics. If I recall correctly in the lore, and please, dear God, do not ask me about the lore, I literally could not tell you what is even considered canon at this point. The withered animatronics are the ones involved in the missing children's incident, where 5 children went missing and were supposedly stuffed into the suits. I ultimately decided against it for YouTube reasons first of all, but I also feel that if the animatronics were getting to the point that they emitted an odor, it would stand to reason that somebody would have found the bodies inside the suits and subsequently cleaned them out. I'm kind of just laying out the baseline right now for what to expect for the rest of the video, as for the rest of them alongside Freddy have that same falling apart look to them, along with some subtle design changes here and there. Not much else to say here, so let's go ahead and move on to our next animatronic, Withered Bonnie. Alright, so another thing you may have noticed is that I decided to make the withered animatronics much more exposed in their redesigns than their original counterparts. I don't know, it was probably because I spent an asinine amount of time on Mangle specifically, and I kinda just stuck with drawing all the endoskeleton parts. But yeah, I kinda just wanted to exaggerate Withered Bonnie's missing arm, so I decided to rip away the chest fabric and expose the rib cage underneath. Another specific design change that I decided to add to Bonnie was throwing in a little wire veil over his face to sort of hide what's underneath. I really do like the direction Scott decided to take in removing his face entirely, but I'll be honest with you, after seeing all the Toilet Bonnie memes, I frankly can't unsee it either. I personally think that adding a wire veil just adds a little bit more mystery to the character, and it honestly makes the glowing eye hiding behind it just a little more intimidating to me. There isn't too much else to say here though, so let's go ahead and move on to our next animatronic, Withered Chica. Okay, so as much as I don't like Toy Chica's design, I absolutely adore Withered Chica's. I honestly would go as far as to say it's my favorite design in FNAF 2. The permanently unhinged and detached jaw, the cold, wide, beady eyes, and the fact that her hands are missing. I don't know. I just think that there's a certain je ne sais quoi to her. There honestly wasn't much I could think to really do to improve her design other than just exaggerate her features and amp up the wear and tear to her body. I did, however, decide that I wanted her to actually be able to move her arms about, because as intimidating as a T-pose is to assert your dominance over someone, I don't really think it fits in the context of this game. I also think that the idea of Withered Chica just not having any hands yet still trying to reach out and grab you is pretty intimidating, as if she's just following a mixture of programmed procedure and rage from beyond the grave. There really isn't too much else to say, so let's just move on to our next animatronic, Withered Foxy. Okay, so before I started to redesign Foxy, I realized I didn't want to have another situation of not doing too much change up to his look, so I decided to take some time to think about it. While thinking about that, I started thinking about Mangle's design in comparison, and had a thought. Exactly what child would look at an animatronic at any age and even think to go near it, let alone tear it apart and put it back together? I mean, the idea had to come from somewhere. So, where? And then it hit me. I'm gonna cut Foxy in half. I think having Withered Foxy in a similar state to Mangle would not only make sense within the story itself, but it would absolutely make him a much more frightening character on his own as well. Remember, Foxy is the only character in FNAF 2 that the mask doesn't work on. Everyone else gets fooled by it, and the marionette just stays in their box anyway. Think about how much scarier it would be if such an animatronic were also mobile while missing the entire lower half of their body. Like, when I think of Withered Foxy, I specifically think of his jump scare, where he lunges out from the darkness and takes a bite out of your noggin. Think about how much scarier that would be if he were to still jump out at you, but clearly didn't have any way to do so. Personally, the thought alone terrifies me, and it would make my favorite jump scare in that game even scarier than it already is. But honestly, other than literally cutting him in half and the basic withered design changes I was doing, there wasn't much else that I did with Foxy, except fixing the eye patch again. So let's get right into our final animatronic for today's video, everyone's favorite, Golden Freddy. So, in stark contrast with all the other withered animatronics, I decided I actually wanted Golden Freddy to be undamaged and in pristine condition. I think it would set him even farther apart from the cast as an oddity, as he's really nothing more than a hallucination that isn't actually there in the office with you. I also really like the carved pumpkin look that it gives this way, with the eyes and mouth looking even more sunken and void-like. Another thing that I took into consideration when drawing Golden Freddy was his posture. I'll be honest, I like the slumped over and lifeless look that he has to him when he shows up, but I wanted to redesign him to have a more threatening posture, as if he was ready to get up and charge at you at any given moment. I think that these few simple design changes would have absolutely made Golden Freddy stand out even more in the second game, just like he did in the first one. And with that, we are done. Good God, I am happy to finally be done and over with this. I have been tirelessly trying to work on this video for literally 2.5 months, and seeing that you made it all the way to the end here, I'm gonna ask you a real small favor. If you will, please hit the like button and share this around with your friends who are also into FNAF. I normally loathe asking for things like this, but I have literally spent too much time on this video to not to. So please, if you would, hit the like and subscribe buttons. I intend to make more gritty take videos in the future, and showing your support would mean the absolute world for me. And again, you can also check me out on Twitch if you want to stop by and vibe for a bit. Twitch.tv/Gridtastic is the address. But yeah, that's all I gotta say for today. Thank you so much for watching me all the way through. I'm gonna go take a nap now. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.